While super strength and flight have their benefits, speed can sometimes make all the difference.
You gotta get speed. Demon speed. Speed's what we need. We need greasy, fast speed.
This is especially true for super speedsters who can move faster than a speeding bullet, such as Speedy Gonzales, the Flash, and Sonic the Hedgehog. In the world of the Transformers, some Autobots can claim to be the fastest, but none can match the super speed of Blurr.
Absolutely, positively, definitely, nobody gets driving faster than I can. Nobody.
I'd like to thank my patrons and my channel members for your continued support. Consider becoming one or purchase some merch at my spring store today. With the success of the Transformers franchise, Hasbro was compelled to develop new toys created specifically for the Transformers brand. The new characters would be introduced theatrically in 1986 in the Transformers the movie. One of the new Transformers created was an Autobot speedster named Blurr. Transforming into a futuristic hover car, Blurr's initial design was created by artist Floro Derry, which served as inspiration for his toy. However, after the toy was already in production, the animators at Toei modified his design and colors with a much brighter and friendlier look. In his bio, as originally written by Ron Friedman and later refined by Bob Budiansky, Blurr is the fastest Autobot in both motion and conversation as he uses his skills as a superior data courier. With his incredible speed, Blurr sometimes breaks the sound barrier in car mode, even creating a motion blur behind him. Although he can be a bit nervous and high-strung, Blurr's courage and loyal determination compels him to do the right thing no matter how dangerous the situation. The voice of Blurr was tailor-made for the talents of John Machida Jr., who was already famous for his role in an award-winning FedEx commercial.
Deal good, I'm putting you down to deal with Dick. Dick, what's the deal with the deal? Are we dealing? We're dealing. David's a deal with Don Dr. Dick.
With eventual fame as the Micro Machines guy, and even being listed in the Guinness Book of World Records for being, at the time, the world's fastest talker. Consistently leaving a visible trail around him as he moved, Blurr was introduced in Transformers the movie, first to assist Ultra Magnus in warning his fellow Autobots,
What about me, Magnus? What about me? I can help, I wanna help. What about me?
and in fighting back against the Decepticon siege.
We got Decepticons at the gates, Decepticons in the air, Decepticons inside the walls, Decepticons. If we beat them off the walls and next one in the air, if we shoot them out of the air, then they're still at the gates, so it doesn't leave us nowhere, that's where.
Present through the rest of the movie, Blurr accompanied the Autobots into space in their quest to save the universe from Unicron. In the Autobots' new age of peace and happiness, Blurr did not get to participate in the Galactic Olympics, much to his dismay as Jazz won the race.
It's no fun. You should have won.
Don't get me started, because if you do, I'm not gonna stop. If I don't stop, you're gonna wish you never got me started in the first place.
However, he and Wheelie were entrusted to deliver a new transformation cog to Autobot City. Unfortunately, this trip was sidetracked by Galvatron's fury, the bat-like light pole creatures of Io, and the might of the Predacons. Thanks to the efforts of Marissa Fairborn and Skylynx, Blurr and Wheelie were able to complete their mission, allowing Metroplex to transform in time to face off against Trypticon. Blurr regularly appeared throughout Season 3 using his super speed numerous times against the Decepticons and the Quintessons. Sometimes his fast talking got on the nerves of his fellow Autobots.
Yeah, let's go kick some Decepticon. I'm ready, willing, and able. You can't keep a good robot down, you know what I mean? Let's go. What are you waiting for?
Chill out, Blurr.
Even confusing the young Autobot Sandstorm from Paradrome.
Is there something wrong with his timing program?
That's just the way he is.
In addition, his tendency to panic sometimes got the better of him, but Blurr never gave up, even in the worst situations, and he even saved the day after realigning a damaged strut in the face of Ninjaca. Blurr's toy was slightly retooled and released in 1987 with his Targetmaster partner, Haywire. In the series finale, The Rebirth, Blurr lost a race against Hot Rod thanks to Daniel's interference, showing that the Autobots could gain advantage with a partner.
Don't give me that stuff. I was wrong. Do you hear me? This whole thing is fixed. He had an unfair advantage.
You see, Hot Rod won because he had help from Daniel.
As one of the Autobots stranded on the planet Nebulos, Blurr's gun was modified to transform into a bodysuit for the impulsive Nebulan sharpshooter, Haywire.
I'm called Haywire, and I can nail a Decepticreep at 4,000 yards. You bet!
This helped in their battle against the Decepticons, who were also upgraded into Headmasters and Targetmasters as well. Blurr's Targetmaster figure was unfortunately not released in Japan. As such, the Japanese continuity chose to ignore the events of the Rebirth, beginning with their own exclusive series, the Headmasters. Still talking fast as he gave advice to his fellow Autobots at Athenia Base, Blurr eventually followed Rodimus Prime into space to search for a way to restore Cybertron after the Decepticons had left it in ruins. Outside of the movie's adaptation in the Marvel Comics, Blurr was initially absent from the stories told in the US. However, in the stories told exclusively in the UK, Blurr, alongside Cup and Hot Rod, traveled back to 1986 to stop Galvatron from changing the timeline. Upon his return to 2006, Blurr remained at Rodimus Prime's side, using his speed to battle against the Decepticons. However, Galvatron's continued time in the past eventually threatened all of existence. Blurr once again accompanied Rodimus Prime into the past to put the timeline back in place. Upon his return, however, Blurr met his end at the hands of Galvatron. Blurr finally made his debut in the US comic after the release of his Targetmaster toy. Among the Autobots led by Fortress Maximus that fled the war to the planet Nebulos, Blurr attempted to make peace relations with the local populace. However, the evil politician Lord Zarak tricked his people into believing that Blurr attacked them and that the Autobots were evil. The Autobots soon proved otherwise, as they joined up with the Nebulans as Headmasters and Targetmasters. After leaving Nebulos behind, Blurr joined up with the Autobots led by Optimus Prime, using his speed to face off against many Decepticon threats, and even Unicron's assault on Cybertron. At the beginning of the 21st century, Blurr became one of the many characters whose name was slapped on to completely different characters to keep up the name trademark. Although he was named Silverbolt in Japan for his sleek race car alt mode, Blurr's first new incarnation was in 2002's Transformers Armada. With a helmet design inspired after Formula One racers, Blurr's figure was built around the use of his pack-in minicon partner, Incinerator. While this forced his robot mode to be extremely back-heavy, Blurr's vehicle mode benefited from an added ability to fly similar to the G1 Autobot Trax. As seen in the anime and voiced by Brian Drummond, Blurr was a no-nonsense loner whose attitude made it difficult on his fellow Autobots.
Personally, I want a teammate who I at least like.
I'm not here to make friends. All I'm looking for is bots I can trust in battle.
After learning to see the selflessness of Hotshot and the usefulness of the minicons thanks to his new partner Incinerator,
when I saw you in action today, I was reminded that I'm lucky to have you as my partner.
Blurr began to open up to his teammates as he reliably helped in the battles against the Decepticons. As a talented sniper back on Cybertron, Blurr reluctantly saved the rookie Sideswipe from a Decepticon trap before coming to Earth. This inadvertently caused the young Autobot to soon follow, hoping to work with him on Optimus Prime's team. However, Blurr quickly pushed Sideswipe's hero worship aside onto Hotshot.
Well, how do you like that? There you be.
Oh, brother.
In 2005, Blurr's Armada toy was retooled and recolored for Transformers Cybertron. With a color scheme and head design similar to his G1 counterpart, Blurr's gimmick was activated using a Cyber Planet key instead of a minicon. Interestingly enough, this update to Blurr was seen as a different character than his Armada counterpart. His toy bio stated that he was a retired racing veteran turned instructor that demanded no less than the best from his students. In the Cybertron cartoon, several Autobot civilians hid in plain sight on Earth as race cars sporting Blurr's alt mode. In addition, on the planet Velocitron were several racers using the same alt mode as well. In prose stories published in the Transformers Collectors Club magazine, Blurr was depicted as a racing instructor native to the speed planet Velocitron that joined up with a team of Autobots led by Ultra Magnus in search of the Cyber Planet keys. Blurr's Cybertron figure was redecoed with a new head for BotCon in 2008 as he was introduced in the world of Shattered Glass, where the evil Autobots faced off against the heroic Decepticons. A well-spoken lecturer and bloodthirsty warrior, Blurr's speed was put to good use as Optimus Prime's data interceptor. Unfortunately, his many failures saw Blurr punished frequently for his actions, and he eventually was devoured by Grimlock. Although these new versions of Blurr did not retain the fast talking in addition to super speed, Transformers Animated brought John Machida Jr. back to reprise his role.
First of all, the name's not Zippy. As a matter of fact, I don't believe I've ever met another bot named Zippy. Someone can only assume that you came up with Zippy in reference to my speed, which may be technically accurate, but lacks a certain creativity.
As an intelligence agent in Cybertron's elite guard, Blurr was sent to Earth to monitor Optimus Prime's crew. Unfortunately, pirate TV host Master Disaster somehow took control of Blurr with an Allspark-powered remote control device and forced him to participate in illegal street racing. Thanks to Bumblebee and Sorry, Blurr was finally freed and Master Disaster was arrested.
Mister, you just been cancelled.
Upon learning that Megatron planned on building a space bridge on Earth, Blurr connected with Optimus Prime's team to stop the Decepticons.
Okay, I give. I'm officially no longer the fastest thing on wheels.
Unfortunately, during the battle, Blurr got tied up with Thundercracker and Skywarp as they fell into the space bridge and were stranded out in space.
But if you consider the possibility of using concentrated sonic pulses at alternating frequencies to weaken and dissolve the glue that's binding us...
Thanks to his super speed, Blurr raced across the cosmos back to Cybertron, where he learned his superior officer, Long-Arm Prime, was in fact the Decepticon Shockwave in disguise. Although he tried outrunning Shockwave,
I know I can't catch you, but I can trap you.
The one-eyed Decepticon trapped Blurr in a trash compactor, seemingly killing the speedy Autobot. However, at a script reading for BotCon 2015, Sorry Sumdak discovered the remains of Blurr, and the Autobots used the power of the Allspark to restore him once more. In addition to these new versions of Blurr, his G1 counterpart also made small appearances in comic books. In the Dreamwave comics, Blurr was part of an underground resistance unit on Cybertron, using his super speed to convince Optimus Prime to lead the Autobots to liberate the planet from Shockwave's tyranny. With a design influenced by DC Comics hero The Flash, Blurr was introduced into the IDW comics as a self-centered celebrity racing champion in the days before the war. However, as the war began, the races were cancelled and the death of his former co-worker, Piston, had Blurr repurpose his abilities for the Autobot cause. Eventually joining up with Cup's crew, Blurr helped Optimus Prime fight off a swarm of Insecticons and came to Earth to save New York from Megatron's tyranny. Blurr continued the fight against the Decepticons, even taking a new Earth-based sports car alt mode similar to the former Decepticon-turned-Autobot Drift. This design for Blurr served as the basis for his Generations figure in 2010 as a retool and redeco of Drift. As the war came to a close, Blurr saw one of his dreams fulfilled as he took over McAdam's old oil house. To help with peace relations with Cybertron's colony worlds, Windblade recruited Blurr to race once more on Velocitron. Unfortunately, when Cybertron was attacked by Unicron, Blurr valiantly used his super speed to save many other Cybertronians, but he wasn't fast enough to save himself. His death even paid homage to the Flash, who had also died during the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Ignoring the events of the UK comics, and picking up where the Marvel comics left off 20 years later, Blurr played a supporting role in the Regeneration 1 comics, helping his fellow Autobots save Cybertron from Scorponok, and later from G-Axis. Like his appearance in the Transformers Collectors Club, Blurr debuted in the Align continuity as a champion racer from Velocitron in the 2011 novel Transformers Exiles. As seen in the Rescue Bots cartoon, Blurr eventually flew into space with his shipmate Salvage, and the two crash-landed on Earth 10,000 years ago. Reawakened in the then-present day of 2015, Blurr was welcomed onto the team of Rescue Bots on Griffin Rock, taking on a sports car alt mode. Voiced by Max Middleman,
I'd get to keep these sweet wheels. All right, Earth! Run for cover!
Blurr's arrogant and reckless behavior often messed up rescue missions, which quickly put him at odds with his teammates.
Well, I wouldn't have crashed if you just let me—
No more excuses. You're the one responsible for your actions.
Angered for being scolded for his actions and wishing to be free to race, Blurr stole the Rescue Bot ship. He soon had a change of energon pump as he returned just in time to save Griffin Rock from a crashing satellite and fully committed to being a Rescue Bot.
Wow, something must be wrong with me, because I'm actually looking forward to that.
Blurr's rescue work eventually earned him a guest appearance in Robots in Disguise in 2017. A bit starstruck to work with Bumblebee's team, Blurr used his super speed to assist Team B in capturing a few renegade Decepticons which caused a bit of jealousy from the impetuous Sideswipe.
Okay, I've been cool because I'm on your turf, but that's it.
However, the two quickly worked out their differences before Blurr returned to his rescue missions. Several figures of Blurr were produced in both the Rescue Bots and Robots in Disguise toy lines, the latter of which sported a design that merged his appearance of Rescue Bots with the G1 version of the character. Blurr's return to the spotlight also brought the G1 character back to the toy shelves in 2016's Titan's Return with his Titanmaster partner, Hyperfire, who was Haywire renamed for trademark reasons. However, since his colors were closer to his G1 toy, this figure was a bit of a shelf warmer, especially since Takara's Legends toy line released a more G1 cartoon-accurate version that same year. In addition, Takara also released a new version of Haywire along with the monster bot Double Cross. Blurr had a brief but memorable appearance in Transformers Cyberverse, stylized to look like his IDW counterpart. A native of the planet Velocitron and voiced by J.C. Ernst,
"Don't come to Velocitron if you can't race with the pros."
Blurr was old friends with Bumblebee and quickly had a friendly rivalry with Hot Rod.
Oh, nice paint job. Do those flames make you go any faster?
Unfortunately, as the three raced around the Speed Planet,
nobody ever remembers who comes in second place anyway. Are we gonna talk or are we gonna race?
the plague of cosmic rust swept across the planet. Using his super speed, Blurr nobly saved his friends before being infected and killed by cosmic rust himself. In celebration of Transformers the movie's 35th anniversary, a new version of G1 Blurr was released in 2021 for Studio Series 86. The figure was then redecoed later that year with a new head for the Shattered Glass collection. As seen in IDW's new Shattered Glass comics, Blurr was an effective Autobot bounty hunter and one of Goldbug's hitmen. Unfortunately for the speedy Autobot, Starscream's craftiness turned Blurr's speed against him as he was melted down by a flow of molten metal. Heavily retooled once more and inspired by his appearance in the IDW comics, Blurr was released in 2022 as part of the Transformers Legacy Velocitron Speedia 500 collection. As seen in the special edition Japanese story page, Blurr participated in the Speedia 500 on the planet Velocitron, but ultimately it was Override who won the race. From being named the fastest fictional car by Forbes.com, to the release of these new figures, Blurr certainly has earned his spot as a staple in the Transformers franchise. With other super speedsters currently gracing the silver screen, it makes one wonder if Blurr will be given the chance to challenge any of them for a race. Whether or not he does, Blurr will certainly be showing up in more Transformers series for many years to come.
That's not all by long shot, not by long shot, no sir!
But what do you think? Who do you want to see Blurr race in the future? And what is your favorite version of the character? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe. I have many more Transformers videos like this coming soon, so stay tuned. And as always, until next time, till all are one.
Hey, I was just sitting here admiring the moonrise when I figured out it would look so much better on full magnification, but when I punched it up on the screen, I noticed...
Unicron got his eyes back.
I was just getting to that.